Hey guys, this is Bob Morrison, CLTV. I'm with one of our rock stars from the Outlaw Circuit. This is Shane Carson, standing beside one of his favorite cars. And I want to hear the story. So you just tell me whatever you want to tell me about this car, Shane.
Well, this car was driven by Doug Wolfgang the year before in '77. And as good a year as I had in '78 with it, it was kind of dwarfed by his run with it. He won, I believe, 45 features that year, the year before. Also won the Knoxville Nationals with this car. So the next year, Doug Wolfgang went to Speedway Motors as a driver.
Gotcha.
So that left Bob Trossel's car without a driver. So he called me. I was living in Oklahoma running 6-cylinder modifieds. And I said, well, I can do it. So we went to Florida for a test with this car. We ran Phoenix City, Alabama, Lake City, Florida, and Tampa, and all around Florida. And when it was all said and done, a month later he called me and said, you need to move to Iowa. You're going to be our full-time driver. So that was my test, I guess my audition. So then I came back to Des Moines to run for Bob, the 1978 season. I'd never won any championships or anything like that, but that year with this car we won the Knoxville title.
How old were you then?
22.
22 years old,
Yeah.
You win the Knoxville title.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm impressed. So what's the thing that you see the most change in sprint cars from then and now? Is there what's the one thing?
Well, obviously we don't have the big wing on the top, because
Sure.
that's come along.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, about 1979 we started running them off and on. By 81 they were requiring the wing because of the safety aspect of it.
Sure.
Also, the biggest things probably were tires. If you look at the tires that we run on this car, it was it was almost like an antique looking at what they're running now. And also the safety stuff. If you look at a car today, the seats have the driver completely wrapped up.
Yeah.
Which is a safety thing. I get it.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to see a car when the guy's completely enclosed like that. You can't see the driver operating, and this car didn't have a side shield on it, and you can see the guy run and see him drive. So I always liked that from the old days. And now if you look at these cars, the newer cars, you can't even hardly see the driver.
Right.
You see about this much of him,
Yeah.
So those are probably the biggest things: the motor, the engines, the horsepower, the weight of the car. Even though this car was a super light car at that time, it is still nothing like the cars of today, with titanium and aluminum engines, and but they do have a weight rule now. It's 1,475 pounds with driver, and this car here was probably 1,600 pounds with driver.
Wow.
But that was still real light at that time.
Right. So do you remember about what this would have cost back then?
I think Bob was selling these cars for about $4,500. Yeah.
Everybody'd run for that now, wouldn't they?
You can't even really buy a good used one for that now. I
Right.
mean, it's probably double that. But the components on them have gotten so refined. There's so much titanium involved in the cars of today. You know how much that costs.
Oh, yeah,
So,
lots of money. We've all seen you run everywhere, and I know you've probably got some great stories, but I guess I want to ask, what was your favorite track?
when I went to Eldora the very first time in 1978, we went up there, and at the end of the year they had a 10,000 to win finale race. And it was a World Outlaw finale, and we were running all year for 1,000 to win. A big race was 2,000 to win. Well, Eldora was going to pay 10,000 to win.
That's big money.
So we went up there, and I was driving a Trossel car. It wasn't this one, but I was driving a Trossel car, and I go up there and I win that race.
Wow.
And I remember Jack Hewitt saying on the flow special they did on Jack Hewitt, and he was talking about, he goes, when Shane Carson won that 10,000, it was like $1 million. And what we were comparing, we were comparing it to the $1 million to win.
Yeah.
And he said, well, yeah, we thought it was like $1 million.
Sure.
And I felt like that too. That was in '78. I took my half of the money and I went home and bought a brand new Z28.
What?
Which I still have today.
Very nice. So you remember some of the guys that raced with you in that race?
Well, that race, Doug Wolfgang was in it. Second place was Charlie Schwartz. He was from Phoenix, and actually he was from Ohio, but he was driving for a guy to Phoenix, Gary Stanton. And just a bunch of the good guys were all there.
Yeah.
When you put a race on for 10,000 to win, it's just like when you do the $1 million to win. They're all going to be there.
Everyone shows up.
Yeah, they were there.
So
I think there was 100 cars there that day. 100 cars. It was a one-day race.
That's a lot for 10,000 to win.
Yeah, I know.
100 cars.
Yeah.
What time did you get the feature done? Was it midnight or?
No, it started in the afternoon, and we got it done, and it was still daylight.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Because I went up to get the money, and they paid it in cash, and I come back with a sticker box full of money. And I had this Snicker box, and they said, well, where's the money? I said, it's in this box. So we opened it up. It's got dollars, rolls of quarters, whatever he had, he paid us.
Paid you the money.
And it was right on the money.
What's your favorite racing story?
Well, that was one of them. I got plenty of them. One of the first times I drove for Bob, we were running the Devil's Bowl, and it was the first World Outlaw race.
Okay.
And the track was real heavy and rough, and we had a couple of potholes in it that were pretty rough. And this was no wings too. And I hooked the cushion real hard, and I didn't know it at that time, but I packed the right rear full of mud, and all of a sudden that car started shaking, and I didn't know what was wrong with it, so I pulled in. And Bob Trossel came over, and he took me around. He goes, "Come over here," and he's looking at it, and he's pointing at it. He said, "You got mud in the wheel, rookie." That's what he told me, and he called me that for a long time.
Man, so Trossel had a lot of good guys run for him, and I know you spent time in that garage. And now, where's home now?
Oklahoma City.
Still staying in Oklahoma
City?
City?
Yeah, I live in Yukon, just on the west side of Oklahoma City.
Okay.
But growing up there, my dad was running the racetrack, so I was a promoter's kid. I was always at the track. I always wanted to be a racer, and I got to be a racer.
Yeah, it explains it. I think you're the ambassador for sprint car racing.
I've tried to be able to keep it going. And we use this term all the time. We promote the future by preserving the past.
Yeah.
So I try to do that.
Shane, we just appreciate your time, man, and all that you've done. And thanks for all the entertainment, seeing you out on the track. We've enjoyed it a lot. So
appreciate it.
We'll keep watching you, all right, buddy? Thank you.